So 2 Sundays ago, I woke up to find out my dog couldn't use his back legs. So he came to church, 10 o'clock church. Mary Lou and Dennis babysat him in the front row so that he would mostly behave while we did church. And then he and I spent 3 hours at the vet. The vet was very kind, very thorough, and very convinced that we needed to have a neurological surgical consult. And if she had her way, we would go that afternoon to the emergency clinic and we would do it right now. I'm not inclined toward surgery. So I said, I won't be going to the emergency clinic this afternoon. And she said, well, just in case, here's the referral sheet. Here's the DVD with the x-rays. I've done the blood work because it'll cost more there if we do it there. So now you have all the papers you need. And if you don't go today, here's the referral for the neurological surgical people specialist in San Mateo County for tomorrow morning. So Chai and I went home with all our papers. He'd been given a muscle relaxer shot, a shot for pain, and I had drugs to give him at home. So Stina got home, and we talked about this woman's very strong recommendation. Neither of us is inclined towards surgery, particularly when we have a dog who is particularly susceptible to anesthesia. So Monday morning, we called the local alternative health veterinarian who does acupuncture and chiropractic. She called back about an hour later and said, I'm really sorry. There are only 2 of us in this practice, and one of us is out on maternity leave, and we don't take any new patients until March. Obviously, that will not do. And we said, right. So she referred us to an acupuncture vet up in the city. So we called the acupuncture vet up in the city. He had an appointment Monday afternoon. So we went Monday afternoon. We saw this delightful Chinese man whose name is Dr. Fong. And he's very quiet, very gentle. Chai liked him immediately, even though he was poking on his back. We talked with him at length, and he must have offered to bring in a neurological surgical consultant from downstairs in the specialty practice a half dozen times during our talk. And we finally said, do you think we should look at this, or are you just being polite? And he said, I think we can make a difference with acupuncture, but I want everybody to know what all their options are. So we opted to go with acupuncture. So we left there having had an acupuncture treatment, and now we had Chinese herbs to go with our Western meds. So Tuesday, we're concerned about the peeing and the pooping, which isn't happening. So we wind up back at the vet on Lindemar. We get the vet chiropractor, who's a lovely woman who assesses his spine and says, well, you really need to get an MRI so that you can get some chiropractic going. Because we can't do chiropractic without an MRI and knowing exactly where the problem is. But here's the problem with an MRI. For an MRI, you have to hold very, very still. You have to hold your breath. Dogs don't know how to do that. So they anesthetize a dog for 45 minutes to do the MRI. So we're right back at the problem that we had with the surgery. Anesthesia is not a good thing for Tibetan Spaniels. So we leave with her recommendations and another painkiller to use with the other painkiller, and we go home. The following Monday, we're back at the acupuncture. Chai seems to be doing a little better. The vet holds him up to see if he holds up his back end, if Chai will walk. Well, Chai takes off like a bat out of you-know-where. Okay, so he's clearly interested in moving. He's not given up. And he actually sort of kind of tried to use one foot and back, which was very encouraging. So we do another acupuncture treatment. And we come home. And then Tuesday, it looks to us like he's not using his feet at all, and they're starting to cross, which means the muscles are starting to tighten up. And Wednesday, I wake up and I say to Stina, you know, how do we know if this dog is still in pain? Because I have religiously, and I mean that word in the strongest possible way, religiously gotten this dog his pain meds every 8 hours. And he's gotten all the rest of his pills exactly on schedule, and it's been 10 days. So maybe he doesn't need all these drugs now. So we backed off his meds a little. And the next morning I called the vet, because he isn't in on Wednesdays, and I said, how do you know when a dog is over-medicated? And so we talked about that, and what he told me to do was exactly what I'd done the day before, so I felt very good. And then we decided to order his cart. So Chai now has his own wheels. Because the hope is that when he's in the cart, the weight of the cart, the cart will bear his weight. And so maybe he'll use his back legs when he's not trying to hold himself up. We had to trick him into using it. He got into it and just stood there like, yeah? Now what? And so it was like, come on, you can do this. Here's a treat. The other dog came and ate the treat. Didn't work. So what we did was, I was here yesterday for the workshop. When I left here, I called Stina and said, I'm on my way home. So Stina put him at the end of the hall in the cart. So that when I came in the front door, he had to come down the hall to greet me. He will drag himself down the hall to come find me. So he came down the hall in his cart to greet me. So it's like, okay, this is going to work. So we are getting used to the cart. We're not crazy about the cart yet, but we're getting there. And we're doing range of motion exercises to keep him limber. We have dealt with 3 different vets. We have dealt with 2 more people on the phone. And then my friend who's a chiropractor said, you want to think about chiropractic? I said, no, MRI, blah, blah. We've had to deal with authority over and over and over. We've listened to authorities who are very clear that they knew what we should do next. Very clear. Out of expertise, out of compassion for my dog. They weren't just being tyrannical. But it was our responsibility to listen to those opinions and to take our own authority for our dog and decide what was the right thing to do. It has not been an easy 2 weeks. We have sat and talked and talked and talked through every one of those decisions. And we've made peace with them. Because we're aware that by not doing surgery, we may be not getting him the treatment he needs. But then we also know that surgery doesn't always work. We also know that it's not permanently a fix for some dogs. We've made our decision. We've stuck to it. We've moved forward. The people in the gospel who are listening to Jesus teach were struck by his authority. It wasn't his wisdom. It wasn't his knowledge of the text. It was his authority. It was before the demons showed up that they were impressed with his authority. I suspect that a part of that authority is because Jesus was showing and telling people how to be in relationship to God. Jesus was not telling them what to do to earn their salvation, how to follow the rules. It's the same thing we find in that Old Testament passage. God says, I'm going to appoint a prophet. I will give him my words to speak. I will give him my authority. Woe to the people who don't listen to him. And woe to those who presume to speak without my authority. It's all about the authority. So how do you decide to whom you give authority? How do you decide which authority to listen to? How do you take those decisions and mesh them with your life in God, in Jesus, in your day-to-day life? Do you do that routinely because that's just the way you've always made those decisions? Do you question some people but not others? I always think, when I deal with authority, of the number of people that I watched Stina deal with when she was doing pastoral care in Atlanta. The number of, forgive me, little old ladies who would do whatever the doctor said simply because he was the doctor. No other criteria. One woman, husband was in the hospital, was clearly dying. And the doctor wanted to do one more procedure. And Stina, who happened to be in the room, said to the doctor, and what are the percentages that he will get any better from having done that? And the doctor glared at her and said, I don't have to tell you that. And the woman who was the wife, said, I want to know the answer. Well, he didn't have to tell her. And he said, 5%. And she said, forget it. And later, she said to Stina, I would never have thought to ask that question because he's a doctor. It's authority. It's all about authority. How do you decide to whom to give authority? How do you mesh that with your day-to-day life in Christ? This is the kind of responsibility that Paul was talking about. Paul was very clear. Idol worship was silly. Idol worship was meaningless. Sacrificing me to the idols, it doesn't change the meat. It's fine. However, there are people around me for whom that's still an issue. People who are still working that out. Just because I know it's okay, I'm not going to impose that on someone else for whom it might be detrimental. And if it makes a difference to them, I will abstain. I don't have to prove what I know. I have a responsibility to the people around me. How do you decide who you give your authority to? When do you claim your own and move forward from there? The good news of God in Christ is about power and about love. It's about power that is tempered by love. And it's about love that is emboldened by God's power. It's that middle ground that we are called to walk every single day. It's what Paul was trying to do. It's that middle ground where we know who we are. We know what's important. We know what's not important. We have to hold that knowledge firmly as we encounter multitudes of people who want you to buy into their authority. Any piece of advertisement claims authority. You should buy this because it will make you smarter, wiser, richer, sexier, I don't know, whatever, skinny, fat, strong, whatever. Advertising is about, I have the authority, I know what's good for you. How many ads have you heard that say, and this is made for people just like you? It's like, you don't know me. You don't know me at all. They want you to buy into their authority. What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do when someone on a political soapbox says, here's what we need. If you just vote for me, we can do all these things and it will fix everything. Let me have your authority. How do you choose who to give authority to? How do you claim your own? How do you mesh those two things in your life, in God, in Christ? The more you can do that, the more you'll be walking with integrity. The integrity of having considered someone else's opinion, given them full credit for what they're offering you. Nothing wrong with the person. Nothing wrong with their opinion. Whether you choose to follow it is up to you. So, I wonder how you make those decisions. How do you decide to whom you're going to give authority? How do you claim your own when it seems to go against the opinion of others who probably think they know better? You're the only person that can answer that for you. Nobody else can. It's your call, day by day by day. Are you satisfied with your answers?